Start from the bottom. Now we're here.
Spoiler alert, mega spoilers. Okay.
That's horror right there.
Can you fact check this for me, Jose? Justin Long, I don't know, man. You got to be thrown in that Jeepers Creepers well, I think. I don't know. From movies to video games, welcome to Marie Plays It All. Today's episode is a deep dive slash review of the new installment of the VHS franchise, VHS Beyond. And we have Jose with us today.
You
Okay, so VHS Beyond, this episode's coming out on Thursday. This just came out this past weekend, and we watched it the night it was released because we were really pumped about it. It was on our list for one of our most anticipated horror movies of 2024. We watched it. I have no idea how Jose feels about it. We did not discuss our feelings about this movie at all, but I want to know, Jose, how do you feel overall about the VHS franchise in
poker
general?
face. Overall, I see. In general, I'm a fan of horror anthologies.
Hmm.
I'm a big fan of Black Mirror, which is technically a horror anthology. I'm a fan of the VHS series, of course, and there's been a couple other ones that I do enjoy. For me, if an anthology can at least hit 50% of the stories they tell within it, I consider it a success. It's a given at this point. For anyone that watches any type of anthology, you're not going to nail every single one of them. So I believe you can at least nail 50% of it. I think last year we did the Cabinet of Curiosity, which is another type of, horror anthology. And that was when I felt hit 50%. So that was a success. That being said, beyond the rambling that I just did there, VHS has been around for a while now. They're probably like 4 or 5 movies deep at this point.
Yeah, at
Uh,
least five, maybe six. Yeah.
yeah, something like that.
Hmm.
Because they're not labeled VHS one, VHS two, and all of that. So
Yeah.
hard to keep track. But I still think the original two are still the strongest. Still has some of the strongest stories. After that, it's been more hit or miss. So I don't want to discuss this one until we start discussing it. But that's how I feel generally about the franchise. I feel it's been successful enough to kind of keep going, and unlike other franchises, this tells so many little stories that it's hard to actually wear itself out, I believe, because you're now
Oh yeah.
following one story that gets stretched out over and over again and changed and extended even more, and the killer keeps coming back. So I think that's a strength of a anthology is you can literally keep going as long as you have fresh mini stories.
I agree. I also love horror anthologies. I also love found footage horror. So I'm always excited when there's a VHS coming out. You're right about saying if there's at least 50%, then you're like, this is successful. Because not only just every single installment in an anthology will not be for everyone, just like this is subjective, right? So there could be different genres of horror that's thrown in there, and it's like, oh, this one's not for me. So like, was it well done? Maybe, but maybe it's just not your cup of tea. So if you enjoy at least 50% of them, yes, you're right, that is a success. And the options are like endless for this series, this franchise. Like it's just like endless. You can keep going, going, going with this. There's a total free for all of creativity and imagination that could be put into the VHS franchise. And I agree with you that I think the first one and the second one are the strongest. The one that came out last, was it 80? Okay, there was a 94, which
Yeah.
I also kind of liked, but the last one that just came out was Jose, can you pull that up for me, please? Jose, pull up that information.
Let me check my systems. I'm hacking into the mainframe right now to
Yeah.
get this information. So we had VHS, VHS2, VHS Viral. Then we had 94, 99, 85 was the last one. So this is
Okay.
seven. So this is
Oh,
the seventh one.
have never seen Viral because I heard that one is just absolutely terrible. So that's the only one I have not seen.
I was not a fan of Viral. So
Okay, that's the consensus that I've heard. So that being said, I'm excited to hear what your thoughts are on this one, where it places with you. We don't have to rate them all, obviously, but just like if it's a high up or a low. And also, there were some big names attached to this one, and I usually I like to see like up and coming directors or writers, that we haven't heard of, and this is like their first little thing that they've made. But there's like Justin Long was a part of this,
Yeah.
and Kate Siegel's a part of this, and Mike Flanagan. I mean they're married, so like that was like they're huge horror
Yeah.
names.
But they're big names, on the other end of thing. Kate Siegel, I believe this is her debut as a director. So she's just been like on the acting end. And Justin and Christopher Long, they've
Mhm.
done one project together, which I've never seen. So in a way, it is kind of up and coming directing wise, even if they're big names on the other side of the camera.
That's true, but it's just like they are so established in like Hollywood and like the horror realm. They still have so much experience, you know what I mean? So
Hmm.
there was kind of like an expectation for me going in. I'm like, okay, Justin Long, like you know the drill when it comes to horror. You know the like you get directed, you kind of have a feeling on how to direct and like how to write and everything like that. And like Kate Siegel, I mean, like her husband wrote it, but she directed it, and it's like, okay, I mean, you guys are like a horror royalty couple. Like you gotta I in my mind I expected a lot from those two in particular. So we'll see if they if they
Yeah,
pull through.
yeah, with when I saw both those names, I'm like, okay, this would be good. Like, always
Mhm.
been on the other side of the camera with a lot of horror. I'm like, I'm curious, their take as an actor being on the other end for the horror. But there was a couple of things that I did want to mention. First of all, when I looked up the order here, I didn't know there's two spin-offs and there's a mini series of this also. There's a spin-off called Siren, a spin-off called Kids versus Aliens, and
Mm.
then there's a mini series called VHS Video Horror Shorts. So I actually have not seen those three, the spin-offs and the miniseries.
Okay, I did watch Kids versus Aliens, and that was like a feature length film based off a short that was in one of the VHSs, like one of the newer ones, I think. And I did watch the feature length, so it's the same kind of story, but an actual movie. And it wasn't bad. Like I actually was like, okay, it was not bad. It was fun. So that one was not bad, but I haven't seen the rest.
Yeah, it adds a whole other element if they start extending some of these as they go through. But the other
Mhm.
thing I want to say, and it's kind of backtracking a little bit, is like I think with anthologies, it's important to give that leeway, like we do at least 50%. It's important to give
Mhm.
that leeway because what makes an anthology strong is the ability to give you something new, a new vision, uh, you know, get creative, give people something that they're not really seeing too often, whether it's story wise, visually, the way they play sometimes with sounds, like the way they present a story. And if you get too strict, where it's like, oh, it's a failure unless everyone hits,
Mhm.
you're eliminating the chance taking. Like you
Yeah.
want these directors, these creators to take a chance. And then if it doesn't hit, fine. You have other things to hit. And then if it hits, you got something that's like unique. So it's important to give the leeway when it comes to anthologies, I think.
Mhm. True. Agreed. Okay, Jose, so do you want to get into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so each VHS movie has one initial story, like a wraparound story arc that it kind of like doesn't really tie in everything, but it will be like, oh, this person supplied these VHSs or something like that. So it's like these VHSs prove that there's this, and you're kind of like watching those, right? This one was it kind of felt that way. Nothing really felt totally tied in, but the story, it was called Abduction slash Adduction, and it was directed and written by Jay Cheel. And this one was more of a mockumentary, more rather than like a found footage, which I love
Mhm.
mockumentaries like, a lot. So I was already like, okay, okay, cool, cool, cool. Okay, so what happens in this VHS wraparound is It has interviews from experts in the field of extraterrestrials and digital effects in 2021, and an anonymous Redditor claimed to have bought a mysterious pair of video cassettes from a flea market, of course. The tape
That's where
supposedly
I get all of
contained,
mine.
I know, right? Hopefully they're cursed. Uh, the tape supposedly contained video evidence of an alien encounter. So, how did you feel about it being about aliens and extraterrestrials and UFOs? Because I frankly love seeing found footage or mockumentaries, anything really about that, because you don't see a lot of it. So I was already excited.
Yeah, no, I felt this like kind of shift towards more of the sci-fi horror that we got
Mhm.
was a good refreshing shift for the for the franchise as a whole. So I was kind of excited. I knew that it comes with its risks because once you start going into sci-fi, you kind of have to up the ante, especially, visually. You either, have to really put in the budget for it or you have to get very creative. So I was very curious and keeping in mind the risk that comes from this when you have to upscale that way when it comes to anything sci-fi, especially sci-fi horror. So that was my thought process kind of going in with this overarching story. Like I feel it didn't connect as some of the other ones may have. It was
Mhm.
more of a setting up the theme of it, and the theme's gonna be sci-fi like horror, and I felt like it did that. I'm gonna be honest, the overarching one just really didn't do it for me. It wasn't capturing me at all. I just kept saying, "Okay, let's move on to the next one. Let's move on to the next short." Like it wasn't doing it, and then I felt the payoff that we got from the overarching one, it didn't meet the expectations of having me keep cutting back to this over and over again. That's how I felt regarding that story.
I've read reviews, and that's been a common feeling about a lot of people didn't like the the wraparound story. I personally really liked it because I love all that alien stuff. It creeps me out. Let me tell you, first, I'll explain a little bit. My biggest fear when I was a kid and like probably like an early teen was the gray aliens. Okay. I mean, I watched Close Encounters of the Third Kind when I was way too young and I was traumatized and I couldn't watch X Files, couldn't even see the commercials for X Files. I would like freak out. So anything alien related, I get really scared. Like it scares me a lot. And I know that's probably not for everybody, but I mean, will fall asleep some nights and be like, I hope I don't wake up and see an alien standing at the end of my bed. Like that's one of my greatest fears. So I actually kind of enjoyed it. I enjoyed this one. So the last scene of the like of this overarching story when it shows the alien at the end of the bed, like I'm gonna have my eyes are gonna water because it freaks me out so much. Like that looked really good to me. I was like, this is the scariest part. Like I'm like so scared. But then it shows the alien's face. And I mean, the alien's face was like too horror. It had the two sets of eyes. It had that big teeth. And to me, I when it's like those gray aliens where it's just they're devoid of emotion and
Mhm.
they're awkward looking, but they don't emote. That's way scarier to me because I'm like, you don't care what you're doing. Like we are just like fodder. Like we're just like fodder. We're like cattle. And so that's a lot scarier. So I when I saw the face, I was like, oh, okay. I didn't like that. I didn't like the face. It kind of killed it for me.
I'm gonna be honest, when I first saw the face, like when it first came on screen, I was just like, damn, this alien's got giant eyebrows. Then I realized it was just another set of eyes in there. But at first it looked funny because I thought it was eyebrows, but I thought it was huge eyebrows. Kind of like the father from American Pie. I forget what his
Yeah,
name
yeah.
is. Yeah,
Eugene Levy.
Louis Levy. I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah.
he's got Levy brows. Uh, but then like I saw that it was the eyes, and it's just, I don't know, when that whole scene it looked cool with with the graininess and like, oh, what is he doing? He's pulling a tube out of his mouth and you see the experimentation. But then like it ended and I was just like, that's it?
I
Like that
know.
this is what we built to? Like I felt it felt incomplete. And that's why I think Like I don't mind, and we've talked about this before when it comes to movies or horror. I don't mind slow build as long as you make it worth it with the payoff. In that sense, this was a slow build with the in-betweens kind of hinting towards we're gonna see what happened. We're gonna see what happened with the setup. And then the payoff happened. I'm like, that wasn't worth that build.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of cool seeing like the microscopic whatever like or whatever they call that look of like inside the throat, like that kind of freaked me out. But then it's like, ugh, and then it just ends, and I was like, well, what? That's not really scary. It's just there to kind of gross me out a little bit, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I wanted more. I wanted more too. But yeah, it was kind of a letdown. Okay, so let's move on to the first installment then. Okay, the first part is called Stork, which yeah, okay. It's called Stork and it's directed by Jordan Downey, written by Jordan Downey and Kevin Stewart. And the quick little synopsis is amidst a string of baby disappearances, the police unit has a private meeting late at night after having narrowed down the location of the house the babies have been taken to. Okay, Jose, tell me, go through it. Tell me your thoughts. Tell me your thoughts and
Okay.
feelings.
So first of all, right off the bat, it gave me Rick vibes.
Yeah,
In
yeah,
there with the something's wrong in this building, kind of entering the building and going through. My thoughts going through as this is kind of playing around, I'm like, okay, this seems like some kind of special like police unit, maybe handling some kidnapping. Definitely seems unsanctioned at all, especially when they're like, we're gonna go in there, we're gonna blast everything in a way. I'm like, no,
yeah.
no way this is sanctioned in any way. But once we get to the house, things kind of like pick up very quickly. And I like the adrenaline rush that this one was. It felt like a video game. Like I was playing the video game with that first person view from the police cam and just going in and these I'm gonna call them alien zombies. Like they're coming out of nowhere and then they're blasting them, especially then we got like the chainsaw scene and stuff. I'm like,
Yeah.
I feel like I am watching a video game being played. So, like I said, constant adrenaline rush. I like the pacing of it, how it went through. When they finally like revealed the creature, I was not what I expected, but still
No.
creepy in its appearance. And it was just like, that's kind of creepy. You could have given me 100 guesses and I would not have guessed that's what it was. But I kind of liked that it was different.
Mhm.
It's not what I expected. It wasn't your, basic looking creature or alien. But I'll let you get your thoughts on the episode and then we can touch on maybe any story elements that we want to touch on. But that was my general thoughts on the episode.
Okay, my very first thought was this looks exactly like a video game. Like it was so even the dialogue between the cops felt like a video game, how every cop had like kind of like a cliche cop type. The look of it was so like I'm playing a video game right now. They walk into the house and there's like cans hanging from the ceiling as an alarm system, which is in Fallout all the time. So I'm just like, oh my God, I feel like I'm legit in a video game, which I loved. I mean, in a great way. It was cheesy in a good way. The gore was really awesome. And I liked the way the creatures looked because they looked like the gray aliens a bit, but zombies. So it was kind of like confusing a bit. Like, what are they? Where'd they come from? But I liked it. I liked the way they look. I love the gore. Love me a good chainsaw scene. Like I just give me a chainsaw scene any day. Loved all that. There was that one part where they go up into like an attic and there's like that weird altar looking statue thing where it looked like they were,
Yeah.
which reminded me of The Ritual, the movie The Ritual, and also the sound that was happening when you saw it was like this chanting, which also sounds like it was from the movie The Ritual. Like it was like almost exact, like the sound. I was like, it's a little bit of a okay. So right there, I was like, okay, this is some sort of witchcraft, but they're aliens, but they worship aliens, maybe. Like I was trying to figure out the story in my mind, and you see like a hole in the thing, and I'm like, oh, they're like worshiping aliens, I guess, and they're coming from the solar system. And that guy's in a trance looking outside, and you see that creepy man holding a baby, and I'm like, this guy looks like the final boss of a video game. Like he's all like creepy holding the baby, and I'm like, oh, like that freaked me out. Then you see the stork thing, which right away I'm like, "Oh, a stork, like, bringing babies, blah, blah, haha. I get it." And I was like, "Yeah, that's cool, it's different, but I know we're gonna get into story stuff, I'm just gonna throw it in right now." I feel like nothing matched, was my general feeling. Like, I feel like the stork and but aliens, but zombies, but this altar, like witchcraft, and I kinda was, like, really confused as to what exactly was happening, why, how they all integrated with one another. I liked the way it looked, and I thought it was cool. I liked the pacing, I loved all that, it creeped me out. The baby thing kinda bothered me, obviously. I get a soft spot watching anything bad happening to babies or children in movies, so I was kinda like, "Ugh," but it was creepy, and it was so video game-esque that it felt fake enough, but it felt a little too, like, nothing mixed enough for me. What about you?
I mean, what I got out of it by the time at the end, and I kind of just digested and put everything together is, we have this alien, basically like egg or pod that ended up
Mhm,
crashing through the building, which is
mhm,
what that stork alien bird came out of. And it seems he probably started with whoever was in that house was, literally feeding off the brain of humans and
mhm,
infecting them and created and making them transform into these like mindless creatures to do its bidding, and which was pulling babies from the local community, which it was then feeding like a bird from itself and transforming these babies pretty much at the young age, and probably trying to create some kind of like army or anything like that. But it was, turning these babies into something and then using these mindless husks as his own like personal stuff. So it made sense to me on that end. I didn't mind it. Again, the whole ride there was just like so good that like by the time it got to
mhm.
like that reveal, I was like, okay, that's different, that's unique in there, but it didn't pull away from me enough to dislike that one. It was still such a fun ride.
I absolutely agree. I didn't hate this one. I thought it was very fun, and I was like, "Yeah," cheering through a lot of it, and I was grossed out, and, yeah, so even though I found like, "Oh, okay, a stork, huh," kinda like the stork part, although it was different and unique, it kind of took the scariness out of it a little bit or something like that. I don't know how to explain it. Like, I almost wish they kinda kept it as, like, that guy holding the baby, but then it doesn't really make sense why there's an egg there from space. I don't know, but I still enjoyed it. I enjoyed that one. I did.
Yeah. It did for me increase the curiosity. I wanna know more. What is this creature? Where they're from? What was the creature? What would come of those babies? What I did like at the end is the kind of the reveal in a way with a picture is that, it seems possibly this unit is sanctioned, and this unit is specifically put together for supernatural like creatures, monsters. It's like a monster hunting squad. And then I kind of like that reveal where it's like, okay, this isn't just a rogue police unit who thinks they're, going after kidnapping and things that, and it made a sense. It made sense why they were not as surprised at what they were seeing in the moment. It's like, okay, this isn't their first rodeo. These guys are
Mhm.
prepared. They know that it's something weird that is going on there, something monster like. So I like that they were able to reveal that with just a picture at the
Mhm.
very end, because it kind of made sense.
Yeah, that picture was cool, and I loved in the beginning, well, in the kind of midst of it, when they get to the house and they see the guy walking up, and then they realize he's like some weird zombie alien thing, and they're like, "Oh, well, let's go kill it." Like, there's not like, "What was that? Oh, should we call for bat?" They're like, "No, man, let's go get it." Like, they're not even concerned about where it came from, why it looks like that. They're like, "No, let's just go kill it. Let's go." I
Right,
loved that.
right when they enter the house and one of them comes at them, there isn't like, stop, don't move. It's just straight. That's it.
Yes!
No hesitation.
Thank God. Thank God.
Yeah.
I loved it. It felt more realistic to me. So, yeah, that one was I was hooked in after that first installment. I was like, "Okay, here we go." So, that one's a win for us. So the next one we have is called Dream Girl, and it's directed by uh gonna
Virat,
Virat,
Pal,
by
Mi-
directed by
Virat.
Virat Pal, written by Virat Pal, and Evan Dixon. And that little synopsis is Mumbai native paparazzi Arnab and Sonu are given a tip to get footage of the latest Bollywood sensation Tara. That's all I'm gonna say about that one right now. But yeah, tell me how you felt about this one, Jose.
Okay. So when it first started, I'm trying to kind of piece together. So we know we're dealing with paparazzi.
Mhm.
Who, I'm not even a celebrity, and I can see like how annoying they can possibly be in there. So it
Mhm.
was like, all right. And then at first they they try to throw some kind of red herrings out there and kind of do some hints of like, oh, she rose to fame very quickly. People suspect witchcraft and things like that. So I'm kind of thinking, I'm like, okay, are we gonna deal with like witchcraft? But I'm like, that's not really sci-fi. So I'm kind of questioning at the beginning. This one, I wasn't a fan of the pacing. We go to the beginning, we're kind of getting to know these two. We're seeing their invasive plan as the paparazzi that they're going through. But then when the reveal happens and it's basically I'm like AI robot like gone wrong.
Mhm.
It's pretty much what it is.
Mhm.
Um, once that happens and things go down, like first of all, it was hard to make out anything that was really happening when the attack was happening. The
Mhm.
way it was filmed, it was just like, okay, what is happening? Who's hitting who? Who was that guy that she got? Was that the main guy? Was that the sidekick? So it became very hard to see. And then on top of that, I felt that final scene was just it was overstretched in a way. So this one kind of collapsed for me like very very quickly. The pacing at the beginning, again, I felt a little off. Once they got into it, it just felt extended way too much, very
Mhm.
confusing visually. The look of her in her form, it is it was what it was. If you can't tell, this one didn't really do it for me.
Mhm.
At the end, there's not much I can pull from it where I'm like, oh, I really like that aspect.
Love your feelings, by the way. I thought at first the found footage thing based around paparazzi was a very smart concept. I really like that. I mean, it gives them a reason to be constantly filming, and which I think a lot of times in found footage is like, well, why is this film being filmed? Why are you filming this? Why are you still filming? And this one, it's like they got it because they're trying to capture everything they can, and that's their livelihood. I like there's like the social commentary about how oh, this poor girl, she got famous so quick and we're taking pictures of her, blah blah blah, and all this stuff about her. And the guy's like, hey, no, why are you feeling bad for her? She's rich. We're the ones struggling. We're the ones trying to make a living here. So this one was a little more, I think, heavy on like an underlying tone of like AI or robots being evil, or like greed and fame being evil. Like it's all, that's what it seemed like to me. I really loved how it swapped from like found footage to like a normal, like that whole Bollywood scene. I thought was really smart because then it's like showing that there's actually another camera that's rolling, capturing everything too, and it's like widescreen format. And I really like that how like it switched in and out between that camera and the found footage. When you realize she's a robot, I was like, "Okay." But she looked kinda demonic. Like, she looked like she had the teeth, like, she kinda, looked like a possessed, and the her manager even mentions, "Oh, she's waking up tomorrow." And I'm like, "Okay, does she become aware tomorrow? Why does she become aware tomorrow?" And, like, what's I don't know, there's a little more confusing themes, like, it looks demonic, but it is a robot. It reminded me of, like, Leatherface demon robot Carrie. Like, that's what this felt like. It felt like Carrie,
Yeah.
but a robot. She's getting her revenge on all the people that mistreated her, I guess. I thought that the effects was pretty good. It got I don't know, the ending, like you say, got a little too confusing, and it was just like, "Okay, okay, okay, I get it." So, this one to me was, like, middle ground. So, there's things I liked about it, but overall, I was like, "Eh." the story. I was like, meh.
Yeah, yeah, she was some kind of like organic like tech mixture, kind of like a Terminator, in a way where there's
Yeah,
like organic elements like to it, getting powered by like the electricity and like getting stronger.
yeah.
That did confuse me a little bit. Like I don't remember the exact wording, but I do remember before everything, where he's talking to someone else, and I think it was more. I think he said something along the lines of, basically not wanting her to wake up in a way. Um,
Okay.
yeah, not
I think
wanting
I
to
heard that wrong.
where her waking up is a bad thing, in a
Yes,
way,
it is a bad thing.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and then we see the conversation inside of the trailer where he's basically telling her the opposite of what he was telling the other guy
Hmm.
when they were speaking about her, and he's like, you're a goddess, you're great, blah 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 blah, and I don't know. I'm not into the fact that like that little conversation is what caused her to like wake up to become like self-aware and realize like what she can do. Like
Mm-mm.
it seemed too sudden of a shift. But no one, if she's so popular and she has all these fans, no one's ever told her she's great. Like all of a sudden this like guy pops out of her closet and it's like, you're great. And then she's like, you know what? I am amazing. Let me wipe everyone out type
Yeah.
aspect. It seemed like just a forced switch out of
Hmm.
it. So like, it wasn't clear why that would so easily wake up this robot and make it self-aware. If all it takes is kind words. I don't know. It didn't do it for me.
The next one we have Live and Let Dive, which I first of all thought that was so clever. I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. It's directed by Justin Martinez, written by Ben Turner and Justin Martinez. And it is Zach is celebrating his 30th birthday with his wife, Jess, best friend Logan, and numerous other acquaintances via skydiving. Just before they are ready to jump off, they spot a UFO and several fighter jets like heading to ground level and in the sky. Okay, Jose, go.
Okay. First of all, worst birthday ever. Uh,
I
this one,
agree.
you should have gone bowling. Uh,
Yes.
I think right off the bat, I like the starting setting.
Mhm.
There's like a claustrophobic aspect of it, of everyone squeezed into this tiny plane to the point where like everyone's in contact with everyone. There's no seats really or anything like that. Everyone's just bunched up. So that already adds it. And you're getting it from the perspective of inside the plane. So you're not really getting the scope outside. It's all like in a tiny room and you have eight, nine people like in there. And you see them talking, and okay, first of all, it's very, how was it that dialogue at the beginning is kind of cringy. It's like, these people are kind of annoying as a group.
Yeah.
Uh, so you get that, but then like I like how they added, you had the subtle shakes, but they kind of keep going.
Mhm.
And at one point they acknowledge it after like the second or third shake, like everything okay. But those first like couple of shakes in there, like you see the little bit of panic in their face, but they kind of keep on being their cringy self. I think that was a good touch where it's like, okay, they felt it. They're physically acknowledging that something's wrong, but whatever, we're good. And it took a few shakes for them then to turn to the pilot and be like, hey, everything good? He's like, yeah, everything's fine. So I like that aspect. Uh, when they turn to look out the window and you see like the ship and then it disappears and then you see ship again and you see the jets like dart through. I thought that was all really cool. There's been times I've been on planes and I always tend to go the window seat because, being tall, I can like lean against the side so I can like sleep and not end up on someone's shoulder. So I always get the window. And sometimes I'll be looking out the window many times. I'm like, what if I just saw like an alien ship like out there? Like, what would happen? What would we do? Like, do I tell
Hmm.
anyone? Hey, look, there's a ship. Create panic. So like those thoughts have gone through my head. So being there in that through the camera that they're using, it kind of gave me that perspective. Look out the window, there's a giant ship. So I personally appreciated that touch. And then when things start going down, like when the plane crashes and all the pieces, and they're going down. Like there's this like anxiety and like adrenaline rush with it, and it's like who's gonna pull their parachute and someone gonna grab them, and it just kept going and escalating. So I thought it gave me kind of like a Cloverfield feeling. You know, you go
Hmm.
from everything is it's happy, everyone's good to shit's going down in there. So it kind of made it feel like that. If I had to like nitpick a complaint, is I was not a fan of the alien CGI.
Yep.
It's especially when the alien was like staying still. It didn't mind it too much when it was like zooming by and you didn't get a good look. So it can the blurriness kind of fit. But when it was staying still and we were hyper focused on the alien, I was not a fan of the CGI. It kind of threw me out a little bit. So it was weird that that visual I was not a fan of, but I absolutely loved the visual of when he's in the truck and he gets abducted when they pull the truck up and that showing that from the inside and the lighting and the visual, you see it kind of going through the clouds and like you can feel it. It's almost like you're in that truck being pulled away. I absolutely love that, and it made me forget about the bad alien CGI beforehand. So it's like we know where the budget went. It went to that part.
Yeah.
So yeah, between
Right.
the adrenaline ride, the whole thing was that claustrophobic feeling they give you at the beginning to all of a sudden wide open horror to then like nonstop action to that scene. I was like, this was a great one.
Okay. Good. You said a lot of my points. Like a lot, like pretty much how you felt almost was how I felt. Okay, so my childhood fear were the gray aliens. My grown-up fear is flying. So this one had both of my fears in one. I agree with you with the cringy dialogue, especially that girl recording herself saying, "My kids are gonna effing lose their shit when they see this." I'm like, first of all, if your kids are seeing that, you're not talking like that. You're not swearing. There, there's too much swearing, like trying to be like relatable and young. And I'm like, I don't know if people like I would never swear talking to my kids like that, like whatever. But the whole plane exploding scene and the crash and falling in the debris, that looked so good. Like that looked incredible. Like I was just like, wow, that was great. Like that looked really good. But then the alien comes, the alien design was stupid with the legs wrapping around. The alien design was dumb. The way it looked was dumb. Its head splitting open. I was like, is this Late Night with the Devil? Like the head splitting open and then the power going in. For me, it's just like the simpler, the better. It's like scarier when it's simpler. I find the close up of the alien just it really bothered me. The head opening up, I didn't like that. The Wolverine electricity claws, I'm like, pick one. Like just pick something and be scary with one thing.
Yeah.
Like you're putting too much, do less, okay? You're doing way too much. The abduction scene was I felt it too. Like I absolutely adored that scene. I was like, this is super cool. This looks great. I feel like we didn't even need to see the aliens personally. You don't even really need to see, or at least even like full, like you can know the aliens are about, like you say, have the fast whatever, and you know they're getting picked off one by one by the aliens. But the idea of the alien invasion and the alien abduction is scary enough that I think you don't need to even see the aliens do anything. I know they wanted to add gore and some of it looked okay, some of it didn't look okay, but it's like if you did less with this one, but kept those big scenes like the plane crash and falling out and the abduction and everything like that. And the idea that the aliens are basically offing everyone in society, then that's scary enough. We didn't need to see that. That really killed it for me. The aliens themselves. Like, I was like, God, you're so close. But the alien was just, I don't want to say like it ruined it, but it kind of just really tainted that whole thing for me. But there were really good scenes, really, really good scenes.
Yeah. One story element that had me a little bit confused, and I kind of have a theory, like just me trying to put it together, was
Mhm.
the face blasting by the
Yeah,
alien.
yeah, yeah.
So we see him face blast a friend, and then he he face blast him in the car, and then all of a sudden like the alien like leaves, and the guy is like not affected. So at first I was like, what is this thing?
Hmm.
My theory, what I feel is happening is like I feel that it's not a weapon. that's a scanning, whatever it is that they're
Mm,
scanning from.
mhm,
And I think he scanned a friend, decided you don't meet the criteria, and that's why he killed the friend. And then he scanned that guy in the car, and it's like, yes, you. That's why he leaves, and then they take the guy with the car. So the
mm,
face thing, uh, that at first I was again confused, but that's my theory that it's just more of a scan of who meets the criteria because they're trying to take people, whether it's for research or to examine, and that's why that played out that way. But yeah, get rid of the clause and the electricity, and be vague with the creature. If they would have been very vague with the creature, or maybe if you go more practical with
mhm,
the
yes,
creature, all those things like that could have elevated this to almost like pristine short. Um,
agreed.
so yeah, which is a shame because again, that beginning and that end was so well done.
Very, very well done. And I mean, I like your idea of like a scan and like seeing like who you are because the one left alive was the one who was scared to go, right? Was scared to go skydiving and everything. So maybe they're like, this one's not a fighter. Let's get him. He'll be docile. We can do whatever we want. He's not going to fight us. I don't know. It had a lot of really good things about it. So okay, let's move on to Fur Babies. This one is directed and written by Christian Long and Justin Long. Becky runs a supposed dog daycare center called Doggy Dream House and keeps taxidermies of her past dogs. An animals rights activist group decide to investigate her home and sends members Stuart and Angela along with their leader Miles's dog Pickles. All right, Jose, let's hear it.
I'll tell you this much: it took about 5 seconds into this one before I wanted that whole group taken out. Uh, they, they right off the bat, they did a great job of making this group very unlikable.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, okay, these people are annoying. So
Mhm.
I don't know what situation you need to get into, but I'm kind of hoping it doesn't end well for you. In there. So it
Mhm.
took about 5 seconds to do that. Um, this one. So the woman, she did a good job of being creepy
Mhm.
in there, like that stepford wife, like I'm very happy type creepy, but there's
Mhm.
like something wrong. So she did a good job doing that. That's that, and then the other positive I can give to this one is I like how they played with the switching of the video sources. So sometimes we had it from the security camera, sometimes we had it from the dog collar, sometimes we had it from their camera. So like this getting versatile with the use of the cameras, that was a positive for me. That's kind of where it ends. On the
And that was you
positives,
reaching. That was you reaching for a positive.
yeah,
I know.
yeah, I try to find something. The concept of Cell, funny enough, because it's directed by Justin Long, reminded me of like Husk, which
Mm,
which he was in. So it's kind of a very similar concept. It just, I don't know. First of all, it's the only one that I feel like really did not deal with extraterrestrial in any way at
no,
all. So
no.
it kind of it felt out of place in its themes. I guess
Yeah.
it could be considered sci-fi because of the like Frankenstein type science in a way. But again, you're kind of grasping at straws to make this fit in. This was, a square peg through a round hole in a way. And it's just, it was weird. The prosthetics looked okay, at certain parts. And again, I'm very reaching. I'm really reaching, trying to
Yeah.
find positives in this one. I expected more from Justin Long, but it seems like he just did a different vision of a movie that he's been in. And, uh, yeah, this one didn't quite do it for me.
Okay, so I'm not even gonna reach for a positive. I did not like this one at all. There's been one other VHS installment from a previous one that I actually like fast forward and got out of it because I didn't like it, and I almost wanted to do it with this, but we had to talk about it, so I had to force my way through. Otherwise, I probably would have skipped through it because I really didn't enjoy it. Uh, also could tell that it was Justin Long's one because when they went into the basement, you saw like cages. I was like, oh, this reminds me of Barbarian. Like it reminded me of Barbarian, like the cages and everything in the basement.
Yeah.
I'm like, this has got to be his. So he like took a bunch of stuff from movies he's already been in, I guess. But anyway, one of my main pet peeves with found footage movies is the loud ass camera glitch when it's like a digital camera and it's like a and it's like that loud glitches all the time. I'm like, are you a VHS or are you digital? Like, because this is supposed to be a VHS show and this is a clearly filmed and high tech digital camera. So and I know a lot of them were in this one, but this really this one really bothered me. Um I also hated the kids, which is good. And I like when they go to the house and they're like, well, why don't we call the cops? Oh no, the cops are corrupt. I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
they would. They would. But anyway, another thing about found footage is like you want to know why they're filming. Why are they filming? What's the point of this? So when the woman, Becky, right, is filming herself talking like it's a show and what she's doing to these people. I'm like, why are you filming this? Is this just because you're crazy? Are you going to go back and watch this? Who are you showing this to? Why would you be filming this? Who's seeing this footage except for us, the viewer? Which is like, but still, it's not a good reason for her. I guess because she's nuts. Like, why would she keep filming? Why would she film herself do this? Anyway, I said, I am ashamed of Justin. That was one of my notes. And then I said, if there is a commentary in this, I don't care. Like if there's like some sort of like depth that they're trying to do, I'm like, I don't give a crap. I did not like this one. I don't want to say hate. I don't like using that word too much, but I really strongly dislike this one.
Yeah. Just to try, and again, this is me grasping at straws, but just to try to play devil's advocate regarding her recording herself. Uh, Not that I agree with it. The only way I can see that is the fact is with what she is doing, there's a certain science to it. Both with physical science, with the understanding of anatomy and the experimentation, but then also there's a psychological aspect to it where it's not just physically changing, she has to psychologically change these people. So I can see it as kind of like a scientist log, kind of like logging in the progress I was going. So I can explain it away that way, but I shouldn't have to explain it away that way. Like it should
Yeah,
become
yeah.
clear. Like she could have easily said something like, log number
Yes,
252, like something like
perfect.
that. That's on the writing itself. And see, if I think about the concept, it's a creepy concept of the
Mm,
capturing, the caging, and basically not just physically mutilating to the point where you're changing their anatomy completely, but then also the psychological breakdown that you have to create to basically remove the humanity out of these
yes.
people. It's a creepy concept when you take it like that. But that's one thing, having a creepy premise and concept and then portraying that on screen in
Hmm.
a way that's coherent and actually exposes that creepiness. This did not do a good job of taking that concept. Maybe it needs a bigger format, and the short format just isn't enough because just like it takes a long time for that process, it you may need a bigger format to really establish this premise, and maybe you need likable characters so that we care what happens to them.
Mm, yeah.
This didn't have any of that.
No, it was it could, you're right. It definitely could have been a really dark, disturbing, but I feel like it was just too leaning far too on the silly comedic side where it just became like just so goofy. I don't know. It was a miss, huge miss for me. That being said, let's move on to Stowaway, directed by Kate Siegel and written by Mike Flanagan. Haley, a woman who is implied to have left her husband and child behind, is documenting her findings of possible extraterrestrial encounters in the Mojave Desert. Okay, Jose, take it away.
Yeah. So this one I like. I like the setup of it. with her being a journalist, kind of going through and, the interviewing of the people that have had the sightings, the, news reports, like all that aspect.
Very Blair Witch. It was kind of like Blair interviewing the townsfolk. Okay.
Exactly. And did they, was that actual video that they used of like the lights, like
I
at
don't
least
think
it
it,
seems similar. Like
yeah.
they one thing I like that this thing did is it made it seem realistic.
Oh yeah.
Visually it was really good. I like the way, it definitely felt like it was filmed on like old like VHS with like the faded, the washed out like look of it. That part seemed like really good. I like the progression of the interviewing the people and it's kind of like where we really do see these interviews where some people seem off enough where you have to question like did these people really see these or are they just a little like off their rocker
Mhm.
in there. So
Yeah.
they did a good job of portraying that with the people that we're interviewing. Once we get into it, and she's following this. Oh wait, I did like because anyone who's worked with VHSs before understands this, but I did like how it would like go back into what she recorded over.
Hmm.
I remember that happening so many times. I'm watching something and something like what I had on it previously will creep up and like in between. So I think that was a nice little touch. So she goes, finds a ship, gets inside the ship. What I like here is that they got creative. They used in this some creative ways to deal with a low budget where you don't have like we had with the Let Live and Let Dive, where the CGI kind of pulls you out because you try to go too big. This one it was like, no, let's grade things out a little bit. Let's rely on
Yes.
on sound. Let's get a little grainy and stuff where it's like you can see something's there, but you can't see it well enough. So then it's like it adds like it keeps that mystery to it, and you don't have the visuals pulling you out. So I love that it did that. And then once the ship like took off and the way that whole thing played out, which you kind of get a hint earlier, where she's talking about the science of space travel and what it can do to like a body. So they kind of planted that seed before. And once you see that playing out, I feel like up to this point, the best scene I had seen was the truck abduction scene. That was the best scene visually that I had seen and
Yeah.
auditory. This topped it on that one when that was happening. Not just how it looked, but just the idea of what you're watching. Like the whole
Yeah.
time, like I'm like, oh my God, this looks so cool, but it also looks so like grueling
Yeah.
to, be physically just torn apart and then put together, but it's not put together back as a whole. It's put together as best as possible in
Yeah.
there. It was like smashing a pot and then you keep like gluing it back together, but it still has all the cracks and maybe all the pieces weren't where they were before. So you still have the semblance of a pot, but it's a warped pot. That was the image that kept replaying in my head. And it was just like this is where the horror here comes is just putting yourself in her shoes and just how the worse than dying is pretty much what we're getting here.
Yes.
And knowing like how long is this going to happen for? You don't
Hmm.
know how long it's going to take to get wherever they came from because she gave two scenarios when she was explaining. One is it taking the 4 light years if they're from that nearest spot. But then if it's like Andromeda, it could take 28 Earth years to get over there, which would be I think she said 150 something years or something like that Earth is happening. So it was
Yeah.
like I hope is the sooner one because she's gonna be like going through this for years. Like that's horror right there. Whereas like you don't need to continue. My imagination can take over from here and it's just horrible.
Jose, yes. I agree with everything you said. I'm getting teary-eyed thinking about it. This one had the most emotion behind it. They didn't need to explain that she's a mom and they didn't explain it. They showed it with the little broken bits of the VHS where like her daughter would come through and like they had the little stuffed animal. It just added emotion to it when you add that like parental, you have a family at home. It's just like adding that like love behind it just adds so much more emotion to the horror, makes it more horrific. Okay. This one was by far, I'm just gonna say it, this was my absolutely favorite one. I'm just gonna say it because we're gonna go into that right after this anyway. I love the whole less is more. It was a more contained story, a more intimate story. I love that the alien ship was organic. I thought that was very smart. I loved how it had these like musical sound things in it that did certain things. Like that was just something I would never think of. And, the parts that come out and put you back together and you think, oh, this is amazing. Like, this is so great. Like, it's fixing something so quickly, fixing me. And that ends up being the most horrific part of the whole story. I love that they didn't show the alien really. They heard it and it sounded scary, had like that whole predator type sound to it. And they didn't need to show it for it to be scary. That was the scariest alien scene in the whole thing. Less is more. You don't need to show it. We don't need to see it. Hearing it is enough. And I love that they had like an octopus on the ship because it's like, did they take the octopus from Earth or are they putting it on Earth? Because people say like octopus seem like they're like alien beings. So I'm like, oh yay. And it's just my favorite. So I like to see a little octopus guy in there. This one for sure was the most horrific emotionally and mentally, like you say, her being torn apart and put together over and over again to the point where she's begging to die, essentially. She's begging, please don't, no more, please. And it was something that she thought was so amazing in the at first, like, oh, it fixes you right away, but it doesn't quite fix you right. She's all mutated again. They don't really show it. It's all grainy at this point. I love that this one's actually filmed on a VHS style, and that the camera isn't quite the same, even when it's in space. Everything's black and white. It's all great, grainy. The idea too, where if she's up there for that long and that many years are passing on Earth, your family's dead, your daughter's dead, they think you're dead. Like, it's just the whole horror behind it was brilliant. It was so sad, it was so scary. It was such an interesting premise. I loved it. I want to watch it again, actually. It's so good.
I think what adds an interesting element for the audience looking through is, so yeah, you barely see the alien. You see like a limb like extending, and you kind of hear it
Hmm.
and stuff, and the alien never sees her. But that's the thing, we see the alien whether it's dropping off or it's picking up these creatures and put them in all this stuff because she never directly encounters the alien and it never sees her. We don't know if it's a malicious alien. So that leaves the
No.
possibility in your mind that if you would have seen her, the alien might have either put her in a pod to protect her or kicked her off the ship. Because maybe it's just the alien coming to gather samples. There's nothing malicious to it. But like her hiding, which is your go-to move, because there's an alien in there, might have actually been to her detriment instead of
Yeah.
actually saving her life. So it adds that element to it that you've never seen that encounter. So you never know, nice alien, bad alien, which one is it?
Hmm. Very true. Yeah, it adds to the whole mystery of it. Yeah, this one was This one was good. And like just thinking about it right now, I wanted to tear up a little bit. Everything looked great too. Everything looked awesome. Good job, Kate Siegel and Mike Flanagan. You guys are a good combo. Come up with a whole movie, please, because that was brilliant.
Yeah, and her last words, like, please, like, it's
I
like,
know.
and this, but
It
no
was,
one can hear her. Like the
I
alien can't
know,
even hear her. It's gonna be like sleeping
I
for
know.
however long. That is one of the most horrific ways to go that I have ever seen in a
Yeah.
movie. And knowing that what we saw, that was just a couple of jumps, two or like three jumps, things like that. What we saw is just the tip of the iceberg.
Well, the thing is too is like we don't really know how many jumps it is. Like maybe it was longer. Like maybe it just glitched out and maybe it was longer. I don't know, but that camera's tape's still going, so it's got to be just a little right. Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Well, there we go. We went through all of the installments of VHS Beyond. Jose, what is your overall thoughts on this film?
as a whole, I say more than 50% were a hit for me, so I consider this successful. I feel it's a really good entry. I would put this within the top three with the first two.
Right after I watched it, I was actually very disappointed in it. I was like, "Oh, wow, that was bad," except for that last one because I just for how much I disliked the dog one, and I mean, I liked the first one with the cops, but I was, like, kinda disappointed again with the stork, and then, the one with the diving, I was, like, really disappointed in the alien 'cause there's so many, like, "Oh, so close!" Ah, like, disappointments in each one except for the Kate Siegel one, that I was like, "Overall, did I love it? Were they all what were 50% of them hits? No, I think one of them was a hit, and I think 50% of 2 installments were hits. So it's like altogether, it was like kind of disappointing for me. But I will say that the Kate Siegel one, the Stowaway one, is probably one of my favorites in the whole franchise. But I don't know. This was kind of mid for me, but then that Stowaway one bumps it up. So maybe that just saved it.
With that being said, do we want to rank these individually? Like, do we just want to give our order for like where these
Sure.
are for us?
Sure, and I will
Okay.
say before we do the order, talking about it more today is making me appreciate it more than when I first watched it. When I first watched it, I was a little bit disappointed, but then again, I was really hyped for it. But talking about it with you, I'm like, okay, it wasn't as bad as I initially thought it was. But yeah, okay, let's go through our rankings, starting from the bottom.
Start from the bottom. Now we're here. Okay.
Okay, let's go. Start from the
All
bottom.
right. So for me, the bottom, the worst one is the fur babies, and I think
Yeah,
that probably would make top five worst out of all of them in the entire franchise put together, and that's
agreed.
being generous. So that's my bottom. That's my five.
Thank goodness we agree on that.
My four, it's gonna have to be Dream Girl. With Dream Girl, it felt the pacing I was not a fan of. Again, I feel once I got into what would be the third act, there is no third act in this because it's short. But once the climax hit, I felt visually it was very confusing. Kind of gave
Mm.
me the feelings of like the first Transformers when things were like fight and it's like who's punching who, like
Yeah.
what is happening. So not only did you give me that when things actually kicked off, but then you like overstretched it. So like I was waiting for as I'm watching, I'm like, this needs to end, this needs to end. My number three will have to be ooh, this is tough. Very close. It's very close to it, but I would have to go with the Stork.
Okay.
The
Mhm.
Stork and I'm battling between like my three and my two. My two would be let live, live and let dive. Oh, it's just the final scene, like the
I
pool in the
know.
beginning one. Oh no, I'm changing it. All right, my three will be let live, live and let dive. That will be my three. That this the CGI creature, I need to dock it a little bit more for that, even though I had two other great ones.
Yeah.
Without that, it would have easily been two.
Yep.
And then my two would be the Stork one, just because that was just such a fun watch. You started off with a bang. Like that was a good starter for this.
Mm.
And then my top one will have to be Stowaway by a large distance.
Man, I agree. So absolutely fur babies, bottom of the barrel. Wish I could erase that from my brain altogether. And then Dream Girl, which is kind of like lackluster for me. It did too much, but it felt flat, which is kind of weird. Even though I think it had some really good aspects to it, and I think it was kind of like well done filming wise. I just feel like the story, maybe the alien robot demon to me, I was just like, eh. Then Live and Let Dive, definitely for me, even though those two scenes in particular were amazing, and I think it could have been easily fixed with just a different creature design or less of the creature. The alien killed it for me. It absolutely killed it. And then Stork was just yeah really fun, really cheesy in the best way. I love the gore. I love the look of the alien things. It felt really Doom like I was like playing a Doom video game. The stork creature itself, I was kind of like I don't know. I don't know why. Just it was too silly or something. But in as a whole, I liked it. I liked the color grading in it. That one, and then obviously Stowaway. number one. That I feel like that deserves like an award in itself because it was beautiful and emotional and scary as hell and on every single level.
Amazingness in simplicity. That's
Oh,
what that one provided.
that's my favorite thing, and I think you go too big, it makes it. I don't know. I love the simplicity. It's why I love the Blair Witch Project, man. It was so simple. You don't see the threat. You don't like we don't see the alien in this. Like you don't. That's why it was my favorite one. I love that simplicity, clean. Like you say so much with seeing so little. Anyway, what do you guys think? Where do you rate this VHS Beyond in the whole series, the whole franchise? Which one was your favorite installment in the movie? Let us know in the comments below. Did you love fur babies? Let's tell us why. Tell us why we should. Thank you guys for watching. You can find more of our content on our YouTube channel, Not a Strong Start. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Not a Strong Start. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share and comment, all that good stuff. You can follow me on Instagram at Marie Plays It All. Where can we find you, Jose?
You can find me also on Instagram at This Is Me Nombre.
Never stop playing and never stop calling the cops if you think a woman is psycho and turning people into dogs. Like, I mean, just call the cops, dudes. Like, that could have been so avoided.
And if you do happen to find your way into an alien ship, don't linger too long. That's a trip that you might not want to go on, and it doesn't come with snacks.
That's the most horrific part. No snacks.
No snacks.